Top Billin. All right, Top Billin, let's have a little fun here. Your boy Jersey Murph in the building right here. I want to know, did the Seattle Seahawks even the playing field as far as the roster goes with the mighty San Francisco 49ers? Now listen, I think the world of the San Francisco 49ers. I think the San Francisco 49ers are definitely the 1B to my Philadelphia Eagles 1A out there in the NFC. However, you can make an argument that Seattle could possibly be the 1C with what it's done so far this offseason, right? Or pretty much the hares in the barn now. We're just talking about roster, right? The personnel there. How it will play out on the field is however it will play out on the field. We know San Francisco to have a straight-up genius as his head coach. No doubt about that, offensive genius. The only time he wasn't a genius is when he went outside of himself to trade up to get a quarterback, trying to reinvent the wheel on something that, hey, he didn't really need to reinvent the wheel on, right? They fell upon a 7th-round draft pick, right? The last pick in the draft, and he's very much playing like those guys we've seen in the West Coast offense throughout the 80s and 90s, guys who are unheralded, not necessarily super athletic types, guys who can make quick decisions, right? Work the quick and mid-range game, accuracy, poise, the whole nine. Imagine where the San Francisco 49ers would be, right, had they not given up all that stuff they did to get Trey Lance. That's a scary thought because they could still win the Super Bowl next season and it would just be like, hey, they did it, right? And they probably would do it without Trey Lance. Not to say Trey Lance is done. I'm not under that impression by any stretch of the imagination, but it makes it a little bit hard when you see a guy make it to the NFC Championship game as well as Brock Purdy played to justify drafting Trey Lance and going outside of yourself just the season before. But nevertheless, here we are. The Seattle Seahawks, though, on the other hand, to me, completely nailed a lot of shit. Moving on from his franchise QB, the artist formerly known as Seattle starter. 1 year later, to me, they found themselves a veteran franchise QB. They needed to get that defense together, and you can say that they very much did that, right? Let's actually go over here to Seattle and we can make a little bit of a roster comparison. I want you guys to be unbiased, right? I would rather people answer that's not a fan of either one of these teams, or at least if you're going to answer, be unbiased about it, and let's go from there, right? But listen, in fact, let's start right here with the defense, right? I'm a defensive cat, at least by nature. That line of scrimmage, that was the sticking point for me watching and covering Seattle last year. Being able to stop the run, being able to impact the passer. They can impact the passer with some of the best of them. Top 7 in the league getting after the quarterback. They have multiple edge players that had they had 2 9.5 sack guys and Darryl Taylor and Uchenna Nwosu. Had multiple guys on the inside contribute. That led to having the 7th or tied for 7th or something like that in the statistical category of getting to the quarterback. But, man, bringing back Bobby Wagner, the leadership there. You talk about stopping the run, it won't be against him. He will be all out getting after it, no doubt about that. The greatest defensive player probably in Seattle Seahawks franchise history. You can definitely make an argument there. There are several guys that will pop up throughout the years, no doubt about that. But I think he's perfect for this particular team right here, looking to get over that hump, advance in the playoffs and the whole nine there. Absolutely perfect to bring him back at this time. Now, who we're playing next to him, that remains to be seen, right? I can't totally say that they've gone out and gotten better at that position right next to him, but Jordan Brooks has played a little bit of some good football sometimes, right? Other times I'm like, I don't know about Jordan Brooks, right? I think he's average or whatever like that. Then sometimes I'm like, oh, man, he's pretty good. He has to put it all together, but he's injured. You bring in another guy in Devin Bush. These are 2 first-round draft picks, right? 2 first-round draft picks who I don't believe had their 5th-year option. Well, obviously Devin Bush didn't, and Jordan Brooks didn't as well. So think about that right there. But both are very athletic, both running strike type cats there, but maybe being next to Bobby Wagner a little bit more for Jordan Brooks, and being next to him for Devin Bush could be what it is there. But that line of scrimmage, man, you bring back Jaron Reed. How much does he have left in the tank? I think he has plenty left in the tank, right? I think he'll do the damn thing. I find Brian Monet to be pretty solid. He's also injured. They got the Cam Young kid from Mississippi State. I believe the future is his at a shade. He should be able to do pretty good work there, no doubt about that. The kicker is bringing in a cat like Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones can play all up and down the guitar string. Your man can absolutely get after it. You can put him at edge, outside linebacker in a 3-4. He can play your wide 9, but his best work is probably going to be done at a 3 technique, flexing out to a 5 technique. He's going to do a lot of shit for them. Behind him, you got Mario Edwards you're bringing in, probably on a 1-year rental type basis. He's done some stuff in the past there. Rounding out the front 7, all right, I ain't gonna mention everybody right here. Well, you gotta mention everybody. You see it right here. You do your own due diligence there. Mike Morris being brought in as well. He's gonna be doing some work there in the reserve. Like I mentioned before, though, the edge players, right, between Darryl Taylor, Uchenna Nwosu, who may be the best player in the front 7. Uchenna Nwosu can get after it, right? These two dudes looking like, at least for the future, they may not be the future of the team, right? So they going out and gotten Boye Mafe in the second round 2 drafts ago, and then this past draft you get Derek Hall in the second round. Those are probably the futures right there. But if you can see right there, they're creating some valuable depth, if anything, at that particular point. And you still got Tyreek Smith, who you drafted there. And Robinson, we'll see, right? 2 fifth-round draft picks. Damn, that's crazy. They're doing it on both sides of the ball in the same round, or both sides of the line of scrimmage on the same round. It's happened to work out like that, right? So that's a pretty good front 7. There's no doubt about that. They've improved that front 7. You can't say otherwise, in my opinion. You go over here to these boys, though. Look at this right here. This is the man right here. This is probably the man in the entire NFL. He paces the league, in my opinion. If we're talking about edge players, you got a TJ Watt. Obviously, they're not in the same scheme, but edge is edge. These guys are top edge players to me right there, along with my boy Hassan Reddick from my Eagles. Speaking of my Eagles, though, how in the hell did San Francisco go out and get Javon Hargrave? It hurts me to even see him as a San Francisco 49er. That is incredible. You pairing him with Eric Armstead. Javon Hargrave, obviously we know, double-digit sack guy from a 3 technique. Eric Armstead has the same type of ability. He's nasty against the run. Javon not as nasty against the run, but he will get after against the run, but he's meant to disrupt the backfield as far as the quarterback goes. Pairing him with Eric Armstead is just crazy. Think about this. Javon Kinlaw coming out, right? Didn't have as much fanfare as a Jalen Carter, but he has that type of ability, right? He just needs to stay healthy. They talk about having a crazy-ass rotation right here. They even went out and got a legitimate first-round bust in Cleveland Farrell. That man at Clemson was the absolute truth. Maybe being around the San Francisco 49ers and all this type of talent that they have on the defensive side of the ball, they can unlock that, right? You got Givens out there. Kerry Hyder bouncing back and forth between Seattle and San Francisco right here. That's crazy. We know what he could do. He can give you 6-7 sacks per season. He's just a solid player right there. I really like Kerry Hyder Jr. I wish he was a Philadelphia Eagle, to be honest with you. He looked like one of these Javon Hargrave type cats, right? So think about that. And you go over to Drake Jackson on the other side, right? Incredible, right? You could, them and my Eagles, right? There's a reason why they're, to me, the top 2, at least last year, is because of what I just named right here on both teams, right? If you do the same shit with the Eagles, you can see the same type of depth, the same type of front line ability. San Francisco has that on lock. And if you go right here with Fred Warner, one of the best in the business, top 10 in the NFL, probably top 5, with a Dre Greenlaw, who we've seen can play some damn good football, Oren Burks as well. Man, it's hard for me to say anybody's better than San Francisco. Maybe some as good. Between the front 7s right there, I still lean towards San Francisco, even with all the stuff Seattle has done. But guess what? The gap was closed tremendously. Even in leaning towards San Francisco, I don't find them to be flat out tremendously better than Seattle as far as the front seven goes. And that's saying a lot because you have to take into account the entire defense. Now, let's go right here to the secondary. Diamador Lenore, very solid there. Charvarius Ward, the right cornerback, we seen what he can do. That boy can play, and they play him like a man. Be a man, sucker. They played that man and have him shadowing DK Metcalf in the game and all that like that. I can dig that. Make your other team's best player count only against you or only against your top cornerback. I can dig that. I love that right there. I love them for doing that, no doubt about that. Tayshaun Gibson, pretty solid as well. Man, they go out and get my guy from my Penn State Nittany Lions, Jair Brown here. That stands out to me. Of course, Talanoa Hufanga, right? One of the first videos that I ever put up on this channel was him when he was in high school, and I was saying how much he was going to be like Troy Polamalu. And obviously he went to USC, and to me he lived up to that bill. I'm not sure how he lasted to the 5th round, but he showed himself in the NFL to be that. He's not Troy Polamalu. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody can be that. But he's Talanoa Hufanga. He's damn good. No doubt about that. The secondary here, you have to say it's a very good secondary. They went and got Isaiah Oliver as well from the Atlanta Falcons, who's played some really good ball there. He's very fluid, right? Positional fluidity. He plays safety, cornerback, outside in. He can do it all. Seattle right here, I think they have the better secondary. Tariq Woolen, as good, at least last year, as a cat like Charvarius Ward. But then Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams as a duo, if healthy, man, that's incredible. Incredible. You add in a cat like Kobe Bryant, played all them games as a rookie, able to force 4 fumbles, some picks and everything like that. You bring in a Julian Love, who's played some really good football out in New York. Then you got a top 5 overall draft pick at the cornerback position. It remains to be seen, but this is just a roster projection. You would have to think that they think that highly of Devin Witherspoon to go outside of themselves and go get a cornerback who doesn't necessarily fit the profile that they've had before, that they think the world of this guy. He's physical. He can bring the thunder right there. We'll have to see how that plays out with him right there, but I would give that to Seattle, right? I would give the front 7 to San Fran, the secondary to Seattle, but both are extremely close, no matter what you say about that, right? Mike Jackson back here, who's a starter now. You got that type of depth behind him. Trey Brown, who a lot of people out there really like. You know what I mean? They're doing the damn thing. You can't front on that.
What more can I say?
Top Billin.